What's up, guys? So today we are going to talk about rentals, specifically long-term and short-term rentals, differences between the two, and what you should avoid or what you should look for in those. Again, I love doing things really broad overview. There's no sense in us digging into the nitty-gritty details. There are a ton of resources, though, if you need to dig into those details, that we can point you in that direction, or obviously you can always reach out to us for that. But I personally have owned short-term and long-term rentals. We had an Airbnb here in town. We've had several long-term rentals. We bought them, we've sold them. I am not going to say that I'm an expert on rentals. I do not have 100 rentals, but I know quite a bit and I've experiences day in and day out. So we're going to talk about some of the nightmares that you might experience with them, what to avoid, what to look for. We'll dig into that. So as always, welcome back to the channel. We're excited to have you here. Smash that subscribe button, hit the like button on the video, drop us a comment. Don't forget to hit the bell, because you can see my beautiful face every single week, because we come out with 1 or 2 of these all the time, every single week. Ton of great information, cocktails in homes, listing videos, and then great videos like this, digging into a ton of information that you might find valuable. So let's dive right in. If you have any questions, though, give us a shout. We are licensed realtors, so we love to help people anywhere across the country. 812-315-3850. So when we're talking about long-term and short-term rentals, obviously the biggest difference is you're going to have someone, a long-term rental is going to be basically over 6 months, usually a year. You got your short-term rentals that are going to be basically less than 30 days. And then you have mid-term rentals that are going to be kind of that 30 to 90 day mark. So if you're looking at mid-term rentals, personally, I think if you're looking at the short-term market, you're looking at buying an Airbnb somewhere, that mid-term rental market is fantastic, especially if you're not in a coastal area. Now, if you're going to, and I say coastal, but it could be even just any tourist destination, essentially. So if you're going to Nashville, if you're going to these big cities, LA, whatever it may be, those are great markets for short-term rentals if their policies allow. So some of these cities have started really cracking down on that, even states saying that you can't have short-term rentals. Some of those, though, are great short-term rental markets because you got people going to the beach for 5 to 7 days, just hanging out. But if you're not, so say you're in Evansville, I'm a big fan of looking at these midterm rental markets. So you're getting traveling nurses, there's a lot of them, corporate people traveling for big companies to check things out. And these travel nurses are fantastic because they've got contracts that are sometimes about those 90 days. And what that means for you is less cleaning, less maintenance, less a lot of things. So let's start talking about short-term rentals. The appeal to short-term rentals is you can use it yourself, right? So if you buy something at the beach and you love to go to the beach, when there's a week open, you can pop down there and check it out yourself. Now, my advice to you, though, would be to not use it too much, because every day you're using it, you're not making money on that short-term rental, which is the goal of that property usually. Now, if it's a second home for you and you're just wanting some supplemental income when you're not using it, that's fantastic. But a lot of times the main purpose of these is to make money. So my advice to you would be, if you've got, and I know this is tough for some people to do, especially if you get a 9 to 5 and you got to ask off for PTO, but use it as an income producing asset. And then if you don't have a booking right before that and you really want to take a quick trip or a little vacation, go check it out at that point. But the more you book off of those, that's money that's out of your pocket. So think about that. But it's nice because you can use it yourself when you want to. Secondly, the rate of return is usually higher. So in our experience, we got about a 50% better return than we would as a long-term rental. Now, different markets are going to be different ways. But the last thing you want to do, too, is buy something that's too seasonal. Now, if you're at the beach, the bulk of your business is going to be during those summer months, and the winter is going to calm way down, which is perfectly fine. That's when it's nice to find some nice lady coming from the Northeast that needs to be warm for the winter, and you stick her in there for 3 months, and it's fantastic. You get income, you get it filled. It's going to be at a less rate of return usually, though. But if you go too seasonal, so we've looked at, if you're familiar with the Kentucky Lake area, Barkley Lake, I don't love that because in the summer, they have pretty good rate of return, but not many people are going to Kentucky Lake in the middle of the winter. And so if you pick a market like that, you're going to have an issue because usually the vacancy is going to wipe out your rate of return from the summer. Now, it's different. Like I said, beach, get a ton of revenue during the summer, still get some revenue at a reduced rate during the winter. You can come out looking really nice on those properties. So think about that. Like I said, midterm rental, you're looking at traveling nurses and things like that. So if you're in a place or you're looking at a place that has some big corporations, big hospitals, that could be a really wise thing to look at as well. Now, the downside of having short-term and midterm rentals, but especially your short-term rentals, are going to be the upkeep that you have to have. Every time someone leaves that place, you got to have cleaning people, right? That is a headache in and of itself. There are some apps out there. If you look at, like, I believe it's called Turnover B&B, it syncs up with your Airbnb calendar. It's super nice. That allows you to have your cleaners automatically get notified when stays are happening, so they can pop in, clean, pop out, automatically charge you to your card. That's super easy, but that is something to consider. Occasionally someone will leave the place a mess, and guess whose responsibility it is? It's yours. So you have to deal with it. As well as people expect, in my opinion, a little height of service. Rightfully they should. They're not staying at a place for a year. If they're staying in a year, they realize usually that some of the responsibilities of that property are theirs. Or if they're there for a week, if there's something that's somewhat inconvenient, they're probably calling you, and you have to be quick to answer that phone. Then you can hire a property manager. You're gonna probably pay a higher amount because it is more work for that, but it's going to be taken completely off your plate, which is super nice. But think about that, as well as then when things break, you've got to be quick. Now, this is long-term rentals too, but especially short-term rentals. Again, a lot of people are on vacations. They're expecting a quick and high level of service. So you've really got to jump into that quickly. Have a list ready to go of plumbers, handymen, electrician, whatever it may be, to be able to take care of those problems quickly, efficiently, and affordably. You don't want to spend a ton of money on a small issue and completely wipe out what you're making from that property during that stay. Also, you have to furnish the place, and I would tell you, go above and beyond. If you think maybe I need it or maybe I don't need it, you probably should go ahead and get it. Having those little things, shampoo, conditioner, soap, all the dishes that you need, all the appliances that you need, those things are really nice. They won't get used all the time, but just having them there for your guests can make a big, big difference and make them a lot happier when they're there for the stay. I'm sure you've gone on vacation before. You're in a kitchen at your Airbnb or VRBO or whatever it may be, and you're wanting to cook, and you're like, where the heck is this mixing bowl or this knife or this cutting board? So think about, if you're living there, what you would need, and make sure you have those items ready to go. Also, automate every system you can. You need the electronic door handle. I would recommend putting up some exterior cameras, nothing too crazy. You don't want your guests feeling like you're invading their privacy. Obviously, they cannot be on the inside of the property. Having the ones on the outside can be nice, just to make sure, though, that, if you've got a family of 4 staying, it's really not 2 college guys bringing over 20 people to party on the beach during their spring break. As well, it just gives you another option. If something's happening outside the property, say they can't get in, maybe you can talk to them through that camera, ring doorbell, whatever it may be. As well as those electronic door locks are really nice, because then you don't have to deal with trying to put a combo out, a key, changing that combo. The electronic ones you can change really easily. And so if you're from afar, if you're managing that property from a different state or a different city, makes your life a lot easier as well. So think about that. So basically, you're getting a higher rate of return, but it is going to be more headaches, but you can also use it for yourself. So you got to weigh those things out. I would recommend really digging into those numbers. There's software out there like AirDNA where you can get on. You do have to pay for some of their features, but if you're going to make an investment that might be $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, or some of these are even $1 million homes, it's worth spending the money to make sure that you're digging into those numbers and ensuring that you're actually going to get a good rate of return. And calculate how much you're spending on furnishing the property. That adds up pretty quickly. We had a 2-bed, 1-bath Airbnb here in Evansville, and we furnished it and probably spent $5,000 or $10,000 just putting furniture and appliances and different things like that in the property that we needed. And we probably still could have put a few extra things in. Another thing is make sure those beds are incredibly, incredibly comfortable. When they go to sleep at night, they're gonna wanna make sure they get a good night's sleep, so that's important. Also, one of the big recommendations I would have is, if there's any problem that seems small, go ahead and make sure that it's done properly. If your guests say they've seen some bugs, go ahead and dig into that really intensely. The last thing you want is a bug problem, cockroach problem getting way worse than it needs to be. So go ahead, check it out thoroughly on the front end, because then if you get a cockroach infestation and you have to cancel a bunch of your stays, you're losing a ton of money. So there's the short-term side and the mid-term side. On the long-term side, you're going to have a lower rate of return, but what is nice about it is there's so much less maintenance. So I am a big fan. We will buy another short-term rental, probably coastal, so we can visit it as well. But locally, I don't think we're going to do any other short terms because especially here in this area, people are not coming for vacation usually. They're coming for a show, to visit family. So I think their expectations are a little higher. The little things in the house, it's tougher for them to overlook. Where at the beach, if something's a little dinged up or whatever, they're not going to worry about it as much because they're there on vacation. They're spending their time at the beach. Your long-term rentals, you don't have that as much, right? They're living there. That's their home, and they're going to kind of make it their own as they go. And they're also going to realize that you can set these expectations up front of, here are your responsibilities. If you have a slow draining sink, buy some dang Drano and take care of it yourself. Now, obviously, if it's a bigger plumbing problem, that's you. Or your furnace filters, make sure that they do those things. Lawn maintenance, make sure they do those things, especially if it's a single family. So you're able to pass off more of the responsibilities, but you're taking less of a rate of return. My recommendation, though, is make sure that all that's very clear up front and in writing. You're not trying to take advantage of them, but you also want them to know that those things are their responsibilities. Make sure you're on the same page there. The last thing you want is them saying their sink is draining slowly, expect you to fix it, you're not going to fix it, and then a big argument ensues. That's the last thing you want. It is a business. They are your clients. Treat them as such. Then when you get into those, even the short-term side, but especially the long-term side, you can look at duplexes, triplexes, complexes, single families, all those things. My advice to you, I love single family homes. There's a ton of investors out there who like the duplexes and triplexes because you're able to bring in more rent because you've got more people in that building, as well as then if one of your tenants moves out, you still have cash flow. Where a single family home, your tenant moves out, you immediately cease all that cash flow. And if it takes you 15 to 30 days, or God forbid, 60 days to turn that over and find a new tenant, you're out income for that amount of time. But I really like single family homes for a few reasons. It's easier to pass off the expenses. If I have a duplex or a triplex, I can't tell one of the tenants to really mow the lawn because you've got multiple tenants there. As well as a lot of times your water and sewer bills might be all combined in that unit, which makes it very tough to pass off that expense as well, especially if one person is using a ton more utilities than the other people in the building. Single family homes, they can do their own lawn maintenance, they can pay their own bills, as well as the resale value of a single family home, in my experience, is a lot better. A duplex or triplex is almost always going to be bought by an investor who's looking for a good rate of return, and they're going to compare the rents you have coming in to the price of the property and largely make a decision upon that and any needed work in the property. Where a single family home, if you've got a tenant in there, you can look at selling it as an investment, or you can make sure that it's good to go and sell it to someone who's going to own or occupy that home. And typically, especially in the market that we've had the last couple of years, that single family home is going to sell for a lot more than you would as an investment. So think about those things when you go, as well as, your duplexes and triplexes. You've only got one roof. You've only got, one siding encapsulating the whole house. You've got a little less maintenance there, but usually you're going to have 2 furnaces, 3 furnaces, 2 AC units, 3 AC units, things like that. Where a single family home, you're largely only going to have one of each of those systems that you've really got to take care of. So everyone has kind of their little pocket that they like to look at, different criteria. My recommendation is check them all out. Look at other videos like this one that are going to give you an idea of what is kind of going to be preferable to you. Do you want to be really hands-on involved? Do you want it near you? Are you okay with investing out of state? Do you want a property that needs a lot of work that you can fix up and make some money there? Or do you want something turnkey and ready to go and you're willing to pay a little more for that? My philosophy is we look into rentals in the future. We're looking for single family homes that are going to be able to rent for a good amount. We're not typically buying the properties that are renting for a high amount, but also not the ones that are only renting for, $500. We're kind of looking for something in the middle there that's really going to fit the bulk of people with an average income, able to have good credit history with no issues in the past. So make sure you dig into those numbers as well. As far as the work goes on the property, I love properties that need work, but not too much work. I've done the ones that need a ton of remodeling, and it's a nightmare. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, but I do like being able to do some sort of value add to that property. So when I go into a house, I'm looking for properties that I can maybe put some new, more affordable flooring down, like LVP, some new light fixtures, and paint. If it's beyond that, I might do it, but it's got to be fairly minimal. If it needs a full kitchen remodel, if you're changing the layout, if you're having to gut it and it's going to take 6 months to do that, that's not for me, so it might not be for you either. So really think about that as well. Also, on the qualifications for an Airbnb, they do have some protection there for hosts in case someone does do something to the property. You can look that up on their website. For a long-term rental though, obviously you don't have that. It's between you and whoever your tenant is. So make sure you lay all that out very clearly. You have a good lease that protects you and them, that falls within your state guidelines. Make sure you know what those are. Some states are landlord friendly, some are tenant friendly, somewhere in between. There's not a right or wrong as long as you realize what you're getting into when you go forward with that. And then the biggest piece of advice I'm going to give you, especially if you go with a long-term rental, is set your criteria up front and do not stray from it. There can be legal issues with straying from that criteria. You're treating tenants differently, potential tenants differently than other potential tenants, but not to mention that there's a reason you set that criteria and you cannot get emotional about it. If you set the requirements as 3 times the rent in gross monthly income, no evictions in the past 5 years, a credit score of at least 680, and then someone comes in that's missing a few of those things, but you really like them, you have to say no because it does not fit the criteria. Not to mention the legal issues that you could run into, but those things are set there for a reason, and the moment you step out of that, your risk goes through the roof of having someone tear the property up, not pay, you have to go through an eviction. That costs you a lot more money, time, and effort. So, all in all though, rentals are a huge way to make money, to build wealth. Those properties are appreciating over time usually as well, on top of the monthly income that you get from it. The Midwest, especially this area, is a great place for both of those. We have great rental income prices and property values are not absolutely insane. There are some states out there where people will park the money there just because, you know, even though they're overpaying for a property, it's a safe place to put your money. But ideally, I want something that's going to either appreciate and build wealth for me, or it's going to give me a monthly income. Ideally, both of those things is great. So look into it, dive into it. Like I said, there's a ton of resources. We can point you in the right direction, or you can reach out to us. We work with investors all the time. 812-315-3850. Don't forget to like my channel, like this video, drop us a comment, tell us what you think. And as always, we will catch you next time. See you later.